Trump meeting. And viewers, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump have met on the sidelines of the G7 in France, marking their first face-to-face interaction in 16 months. The meeting comes amid trade tension and a recent diplomatic dispute between the two countries. The two leaders have exchanged a warm handshake before holding talks focused on advancing the proposed India-US trade deal, boosting economic cooperation, and addressing tariff concerns. The discussions also took place against the backdrop of India's protest over the deaths of 3 Indian mariners in a US naval operation in the Strait of Hormuz near the Gulf of Oman. With tensions, of course, rising in West Asia, energy security and broader regional stability were also high on the agenda as New Delhi and Washington now look to strengthen strategic engagement. I now want to open this up for discussion with my panelists. I'm joined in by senior journalist Gautam Mukherjee, geopolitical expert Avantika Kansal is also joining us. We also have geopolitical and defense expert retired Major General Sudhakarji and former diplomat Ambassador KP Fabia. Thank you all and welcome you on the show on NewsX. Starting with Ambassador Fabia here with me. Ambassador, of course, first in-person meeting of the two leaders of the biggest democracies in the world, broadly speaking, and setting the course of discussion here. Where do you think ties currently stand?
Well, it is an important meeting, and you know, in the Trumpian world, certain matters get settled only at the top level. So we have to agree to it, and we can be reasonably certain that Prime Minister will repeat the point he made about the need for building up trust, you know, when he addressed the G7, and also the safety and security of the sailors, you know, because without them, how can there be trade, maritime trade? And naturally, the trade, India-America trade deal also will come up. But I don't think the trade deal can be concluded at that level, because that has to be done at the professional levels. But it is possible that each side at that level might share its main concerns, and it is very likely that Trump will ask Modi to commit to a certain level of investment by Indian companies in the United States. Because if you remember, in February last year, when there was a joint communique issued after their talks, he talked only about investment by Indian companies in America. He didn't say a word about investment by American companies in India. So that is Trump's attitude towards investment. We have to sort of, you know, take that into account, not accept it. We have to take that into account. And also, it is my view that after having dealt with India in a manner which did not take care of America's own interests, you know, President Trump has probably now recognized that it's time to have a reset. But let me also say that, you know, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who paid a visit, I think 4-day visit, well, everybody says it was supposed to be a beginning of a reset. Well, if he intended that, he could have been more forthright in his response to EAM's telephone call about the 3 sailors who were killed. He could have expressed regret, condolences, and also promised that they would immediately conduct an inquiry and keep India informed. He didn't do that. So I'm not sure whether he really wanted to have a proper reset.
Right. General Sudhakar, I want to come to you now on that very point that Ambassador has raised. it cannot be missed how none of the global leaders, especially at the G7, have expressed condolences at the loss of 3 Indian seafarers there in the Gulf of Oman, nor has any tone of regret, a message of regret coming from the United States. Even after Prime Minister Modi has taken G7 as the platform to raise that matter, that supply routes need to be secure, maritime operations have to be given a safety net. Why do you think that has been the case?
Thank you for taking me for your show, and my very warm greetings to all the distinguished and esteemed co-panelists. Behind the stated question which you have just given to me, there lies a big canvas, where things are unfolding gradually at a global, regional, and at the national level. And each of the roundels, they have got serious implications for India in times ahead. Suffice to say that America is unlikely, without sounding pessimistic, India should be prepared for the worst eventuality. America is unlikely to have a reset with India. And let's not forget, we should not be so myopic in our memory and looking at only the golden and the shiny and the celebratory kind of signatures. The Deputy Secretary of USA State Department, if I respect my memory, had come and he attended the Raisina dialogue in the recent past in New Delhi. And without mincing his words, he was speaking, just mind you, about his status, about his level. Okay, he is neither senior nor junior, he is a middle rank official. And he comes and says that America will not allow India to become second China. What more message do you want? What clarity do you expect from Donald Trump? He is a government official. And he's making a statement in one of the epicenter of activities of India. India is not a small country. And leave alone those laundromat and hellhole and dead economy. These are all uncomplimentary compliments which have already been showered in India, one after another, for no rhyme or reason. Russian oil and striking India with all kinds of penalties and punitive measures, I would say, be it in the emotional streaks or in the sentiments or in the diplomatic niceties or anything. They have gone beyond the limit. And so therefore, let's be very mindful of what is happening around the world. The first and foremost thing is that America is trying to reset within itself. Reset within itself, what does it mean? It means that it is the hellhole India is not applicable to India, it is applicable to USA. This has to be understood. It is in a debt of 39.39 approximately. Let's call it $39 trillion. What it means is every year they require something close to $1 trillion simply to service the interest. And every year they are they are collecting or accumulating a debt of approximately $2 trillion. So it is 39 today, and same time next year it will be 41 trillion. They will require something close to $2 trillion simply to service the interest, to run the country of United States of America. They require something close to $6 trillion per annum. Their revenue generation is only $4 trillion.
Yeah.
Look at the finances. They are in thick mess. There is an Epstein file. They want to clear the backyard. They want to get back to the Monroe Doctrine so that no forces in the world order, they get across the Atlantic and start encircling USA, penetrating into USA, and the homeland security becomes a kind of troubling kind of a dilemma, or it's a challenge which is actually growing by the day. So under these circumstances, you have trade deficit, you are having a huge debt, you have a Epstein file, you have Cuba in the backyard, which has got enlarging, expanding footprint of China, the listening posts of China. You have the IRGC there, you have Hezbollah, you have Hamas, and same is the case with the drug menace which is going on. Unfortunately, they have planted this drug story on the name of Venezuela. Venezuela is not known for drugs. It's known for cocaine. I don't see any connection between the drug and the cocaine. Drugs are coming, that chemical ingredient which comes from although from China. They are being processed there in Colombia, and it is going into America. So look at the problems they are having. They have a new challenge coming up from the northern part of the Americas. The Chinese and the Russians, their ships, the frigates, the vessels, the SSPNs, they have been spotted very close to Greenland. They're coming across right onto the Alaska side. So these are the new threats which are emerging. Under these circumstances, they have started shrinking within, and they have identified that the code which was, he himself had rejuvenated code in 2017 or 18, if I recall correctly, and he himself is pulling back from code. Code is today, as on today, despite all kinds of literature, mounting literature, that code has its relevance. It has got its relevance. I do agree as far as the critical technology, minerals, supply chain, and host of other things. But as far as US is concerned, the code has undergone a redefinition. What is the redefinition of code? Today only, within last 24 hours, the name of Indo-Pacific Command has undergone change. Indo has been dropped and Pacific Command, the
Yes.
PACCOM, the old name which was prevailing or existing in 2018 is gone.
Yeah.
Instead of Quad, they have formed a Squad. What it means is Japan, Australia, USA, and Philippines. And Indonesia, they have signed some strategic partnership agreement. This is June, it's running here. Okay, May, April end and May beginning, they have signed an agreement. So you got to understand all this. That means India and Indian Ocean region has been left high and dry, and I too, you too, nobody seems to be talking. So the West Asia dynamics willy-nilly is driven by one single sentence which was given out by Xi during the summit meeting of 14th and 15th. Please don't lose sight of that fact. He said constructive strategic stability based on cooperation. He told in his own language, not once in 2013 when he had gone to United States, and again he is reminded, Thucydide trap. Do not be driven and rattled by Thucydide trap. And you can grow in your sphere, I can grow in my sphere. Let's collaborate, let's cooperate, let's grow to the betterment of our society, of our country, without clashing against each other. He gave a strong reminder to Donald Trump, your philosophy is to confront, your philosophy is to attack, your philosophy is to go in for the offensive. I am saying no, that conflict is not required. We can cooperate and grow in a peaceful manner as long as we are in our respective spheres. And he also further went on to define sphere of influence. He said sphere of influence is a terminology which was more relevant in Cold War 1.0, not in 2.0. He says sphere of influence has to be replaced as far as China is concerned by a term which is called as influencing a nation state, not by forcing or coercing, notwithstanding the BRI and the debt trap that we are aware of. There is a change in concept and the doctrine in China which they apply in terms of global security initiative, global development initiative, a host of other names. Last but not the least, it was followed by Putin's meeting within the same time frame. What did it happen? In 2013, if I again respect my memory, Xi had visited Moscow. They had signed a document. It was related to multipolarity in the world. And the same thing has been rejuvenated during the latest meeting of Putin. What does it say? It says that re-emergence of multipolarity in the world and a new international type, international new type. What is this new type? The new type indicates that there will be multipoles, which is to the dislike of USA, and the multipoles could have some nodes or the polycentric world. And they will be governed by these poles like Russia, like China, like USA. And indirectly he hinted what was happening in West Asia willy-nilly, sooner or later, West Asia will be going for a problem in West Asia will have a solution of West Asia. A local problem with local solution. Iran is already engaging with all the stakeholders in West Asia to go in for a regional collective security in the Persian Gulf. Thank you. Back to you.
Yes, very important, interesting points that you raised there. But before I proceed the discussion here, let me in fact take a look at how Western media has reported the Modi-Trump meeting. I want to put out those visuals on our screens now. starting with how Reuters is reporting this. So Reuters says India's Modi, Trump likely to meet at G7, discuss trade, visas. As per sources, Indian Prime Minister Modi is likely to hold bilateral talks with Trump, sidelines of the G7 summit, with trade, visa, energy cooperation set to be high on agenda. And June 15 to 17, the summit will be held in Avion. It will bring together leaders from the world's major economies. And Modi, of course, is set for his 5-day visit, including a visit to Slovakia. The Prime Minister is expected to hold talks on trade ties, energy cooperation, also take up the H-1B visa issues. That's how Reuters is reporting this. Then let's take a look at how Bloomberg has covered it. It says Modi's moment is worth the risk. Welcome to the balance of power. One of the most notable face-to-face encounters at this week's Group of 7 will involve a leader who isn't even in the club, of course referring to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India not being a part of G7, so to speak traditionally, but let's also not forget how India has consecutively been invited as a special invitee. Then CNN, it says fury in India as its sailors become collateral damage in Trump's war with Iran. The deaths of 3 Indian seafarers in a US strike on a commercial oil tanker has prompted public fury in India and added new friction to an already strained phase between New Delhi and Washington. Clearly, CNN says relations are seeing a phase where ties may not be as polished as they were maybe during the first term of Donald Trump. Once again, another Reuters report that says US-India to tackle trade at G7, but deal not imminent. They are quoting US officials here and saying, we know that Prime Minister Modi is quite ambitious about the role he sees for India, the importance of the US-India relationship. We think a potential trade deal is part of that. Trump would insist on reaching a very good deal. We think a very good deal is possible. I don't think we'll close that deal at the G7. So this is an official who's told Reuters that deal may not be closed in this meeting of Donald Trump and Narendra Modi. New York Times says, can a Trump-Modi meeting reset strained relations? Mr. Modi may be seeking to stabilize ties, but his task is tough. Any grievance he lodges will be from a country weakened by the Iran war to one that has started the conflict and has appeared indifferent to its fallout on India. Very important there, the part that New York Times is putting out. Then The Guardian says, Indian outrage over US killings of sailors mounts as leaders attend the G7 summit. The deaths were the first since the US military began in April its blockade of the strait in an attempt to squeeze Iran's economy and push its government towards a peace deal. The Times says Trump and India's Modi to meet amid mounting tension, and there is a new source of friction. Strain between the two leaders became apparent in May 2025, it says, when Trump attempted to take credit for mediating a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, a claim that India disputes. Bloomberg again says Modi warns of shortage of trust ahead of Trump meeting. Indian Prime Minister and Donald Trump shook hands and smiled on the sides of G7 ahead of the first bilateral meeting in a year. Noticeably absent was Modi's trademark bear hug, a hallmark of his interaction with world leaders. And then finally another Reuters report that says India's Modi Trump likely to meet at G7 and discuss all these important points. Recent high-level engagement including US Secretary of State Marco Rubio's visit to India last month has helped ease some of the tension, with the two sides discussing trade, visas, maritime security, energy supplies and Middle East. So that's broadly how Western media has covered it. There is emphasis on the strained ties due to, of course, the killing of Indian sailors in the Gulf of Oman, and then, of course, Trump claiming credit for mediating the India-Pakistan ceasefire, which, of course, New Delhi continues to deny. I now want to go across to Mr. Gautam Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee, you know, Henry Kissinger had said that it may be dangerous to be an enemy of the United States, but to be a friend of the US is fatal. Would you agree to that?
Well, you know, so many years have gone by since the Nixon administration when Kissinger has said this. And the vital difference, and this is in deference to everything that my panelists have said before me, when it comes to the United States. Now, it is no longer able to get its way. Kissinger's time was different. The bamboo curtain, if you like, was to be penetrated. The Cold War with the USSR was very much part of the equation of turning towards China. And now, after all these years, we find China is claiming parity with America and refusing to budge. It has various elements of leverage, which America cannot deny and cannot do without, and is having to accommodate. There is talk of a G2. It's not really, you know, it's not really spheres of influence. It is more like a Mexican standoff. What can America do? The limits of American military power have been shown up in this war with Iran, where the old elephant type equipment is not working. A 19 lakh rupee drone takes down a 384 crore Apache helicopter without any trouble. This is just a recent example. But most of the attack that Iran has successfully carried out are using very inexpensive drones. Whereas America has used very expensive, old-fashioned equipment of this kind of hard truth confronting America. More and more countries are not willing to toe the American line just because America says so. All of Europe has stayed away from the Gulf crisis, the US, Israel, Iran, etc. war, and there's nothing that Trump's threats with regard to cutting back on NATO, etc., have helped to mitigate. The thing is, it's a double-edged sword. You pull back from the Europe, it won't be without consequences. Now it comes to India. The American attitude is, I can push this country around, no problem. We always have, and we intend to keep on doing so, if not to their face, then certainly behind their back. This is not working anymore with India either. And so we are engaging bilaterally without a great deal of expectation. Where it suits us, we will agree. Where it suits America, they will agree. And this is the situation now. That's why very, very graphically, it's a handshake and not a bear hug.
Yeah. Right, totally. Let's take some breaking updates also now. Sergio Gore has spoken ahead of the Trump-Modi meeting at G7 in France, and he said, and I'm quoting, that we're looking forward to that meeting. So, of course, US Ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, saying looking forward to that important meeting. Avantika, even as Trump and Modi meet, the deal that Iran and US have signed cannot be ignored. and many are of the observation that the deal has in fact cast a doubt on the US status as a superpower now. Do you think Modi could make use of the current situation, also given that he's taken the opportunity to hold a meeting with leaders of the European Union in this visit to France? He's met with, Ursula von der Leyen, Antonio Costa, with Merz, with Macron.
Thank you, Team NewsX, for having me. So, to take on your question, first, the deal which has been done between US and Iran, where Iran is saying that US is financially helping them as well, which US is not agreeing. This might help India as well, considering here the stance of US is weaker. Clearly, US had to come to a back foot. They are the one who started this entire conflict in the West Asia. When nothing came, no conclusion could arrive, so much money was spent, they had to take a back step, especially Strait of Hormuz became the conflicting point here. They had to step back, and now they had to do this too. So especially when Israel is completely not on board with them on this. Now, in this case, US had to go down in some way in front of Iran. So Iran, which was targeted, which has a not crippling economy, but which was targeted, the economy was hit, still they were very firm. Now, how it could help India? Let me tell you how can it help India if possible. First is, let's talk about the trade negotiation between India and the US. Having said that, it's been 16 months that Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump had their last meeting. And since then, a lot has changed between the two nations and between the heading capacity of these two nations. Now, let's look at all those points. First is the trade deal. Now, the trade deal is lying on the table. Nothing has, it hasn't come to a conclusion. Even if they agree to come to some kind of understanding at the G7 summit right now, then also it is not likely to be confirmed at the present moment, because again, Supreme Court of US is involved here, and then there could be further negotiation in July on this deal. So that is one thing. Now, secondly, let's come to energy security. Now, here, India and US, they are almost at the same length, standing at the same pace when it comes to energy security. Both of them want energy security. India can leverage from opening of a Strait of Hormuz, which it should. At the same time, US will also leverage from opening of a Strait of Hormuz, and also rest of the world. So that's the second point. Now let's talk about the third point. If the trade deal is to be done or not to be done, that could impact the H-1B visa, which could further impact the employment of the Indians who are there in US or planning to go to US. So that also needs to be kept into consideration. And then we talk about a Strait of Hormuz incident where 3 sailors were targeted. Now here, if we look from fair lenses, US has not even taken that into consideration. 3 Indian sailors were killed for no fault of their own. They were sailing, they were doing their commercial activity. Now, this is something which needs to be considered at the G7 level, at the G7 summit. The other countries, other nations, they also need to understand this is not right. This should be spoken about, this should be talked about. And also when we talk about technology, now here I'm talking about the points where they could leverage, also the conflicting points. So now they can definitely leverage when it comes to technology, with India having a strong IT sector and also US having its strong AI. And last, not the least, let's talk about Operation Sindoor, where India, where US and especially President Donald Trump take full onus of announcing the ceasefire, whereas New Delhi never confirmed it. They always said that that did not happen. So if we take into consideration all these points, it could help, it could not help. We are yet to see what will come out of this, but these are the main points which would set tone for this entire discussion, which is right now happening.
All right, viewers, in fact, Donald Trump has made a comments at the working lunch on G7 sidelines, and Trump said, very interesting, he said, Unlike Prime Minister Modi, who's calm, cool, and a total killer, I am not. Look at him. That's what Trump said. That's the comment he made. Modi is calm, he's a killer, but I am not, clearly. Trump, who's just celebrated his 80th birthday, and Prime Minister Modi, on the other hand, who's served as the Prime Minister of India for the longest time, as a consecutively serving elected Prime Minister for 12 years. Both of these leaders have seen personal milestones in their journey, yet when we've known Prime Minister Modi to be campaigning for Trump and Trump for Modi, there was no handshake, there was no bear hug, pardon me, only a handshake, of course, raising doubts. Ambassador Fabia, is this change in personal chemistry of any importance at this time as far as the country's relationships are concerned, or is it now reduced to only a transactional relationship?
Interesting question. Now, in the Trumpian world, personal chemistry has become very, very important. And let me also tell you something else which is happening with India also. You see, diplomats conclude so many agreements. But for the announcement, you have to wait for a visit by the Prime Minister. And we signed so many agreements. How many? 19 with France, if I get it right. So, there is a certain, what shall I say, dilution of diplomacy, which I knew when I was in service. Of course, I left in 2000. And just one point about the sailors, who were killed. It is my view that when the BRICS Foreign Ministers Conference took place, India should have taken the initiative to send a BRICS humanitarian mission to the Gulf of Hormuz, because those ships, how many of them? Thousands of them, were stranded there for so long. They would have been short of medicine, they would have been short of food, and India should have sent a mission with medicines, food, and doctors and nurses. And India should have asked, as BRICS head, both Iran and the United States, please make sure that this mission is not attacked. And I am sure that they would have found it very difficult to say no. Even now, this is my final point, out of every 6 sailors, one is an Indian. About 360,000 sailors from India. Out of him, 50% are active at any time. So India should work on it. MEA should appoint a commission to study what are the existing laws, what are the existing practices, and what more can be done, because lives do matter.
Absolutely. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time in this discussion. We have some more breaking news updates coming in. US Ambassador Sergio Gore to be part of PM Modi, US President Donald Trump bilateral. So Sergio Gore is going to be joining that meeting between the two leaders. Of course, we've also seen External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has accompanied the Prime Minister to G7. Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta is joining us. Ambassador, do you think Sergio Gore's involvement is going to have some influence on how Trump makes his decision?
Kriti, good evening. Yes, of course. Sergio Gore has a very positive view of India. Ever since he assumed charge in India, he has played a very, very positive role in many issues. He has been, impressed by the progress India has made, and he knows the importance of India in the coming decades. And therefore, he will play a very critical role. The most important part right now is to conclude the trade deal, which has already been negotiated substantially. There are a few issues which remain pending, and those issues should be sorted out as quickly as possible. In addition, there has been some sort of, I would say, hesitation or some sort of, constraint in our relationship in the last 15 months, particularly after Operation Sindoor, when President Trump and his team used some sort of negative language in describing relations between India and US, and also imposed an additional duty of 25% on import from for Russian oils. Now that was a very negative side, and those negative points have to be somehow overcome. There is obviously this agitation was also seen on the part of our Prime Minister when he, in fact, did not hug President Trump as he used to do in the past. Obviously, it was natural because the kind of language which was used against India and against him was not desirable. And those things will have to be now overcome in the overall interest of the relations between our two countries. And I'm sure that Prime Minister Modi will try his best during the meeting which is presently going on, so that all these hurdles are overtaken and the relations are back on trail. In addition, we also have to clarify the energy security issue, because the deadline set for import of Russian oil expires today, and therefore we have to be very clear that we should be able to import Russian oil without additional duty from US. That is one important point which I am sure Prime Minister would like to raise. In addition, we should be able to import oil from Iran once the sanctions are lifted. So that would open up a new source of oil, because we used to import a lot of oil from Iran. Earlier, our trade was almost 11 to 12 billion dollars before the sanctions were imposed. So we would be able to benefit from that source as well. So energy security remains an important issue. Trade deal is another important issue. Indo-Pacific, the Quad meeting, which is supposed to take place this year in India, is another issue which when Mr. Rubio was in India, he confirmed the importance of Quad, and obviously this will be raised by the Prime Minister, and he would like to invite President Trump to come and participate in the head of state level Quad meeting, which is supposed to be held in India this year. So these are some of the important issues which will be raised. So far as the Iran issue is concerned, I think once it is resolved, once the MOU is signed, hopefully the sanctions will be lifted, and the Strait of Hormuz will be open to the international traffic. I think the situation which existed 4 months ago should come back. It is an international water. No country has right to levy any kind of charges on or toll tax on that ships passing in that. I think that would be very unfortunate if Iran or any other country does so, because that would set a very wrong precedence and it would be against the international law as well. So these issues, I think, will come up, and I'm sure our Prime Minister will try to see that India and US resume their dialogue and return back to the position where they were approximately 15 months ago. Over to you, Kriti.
Right. Mr. Mukherjee, I want to come back to you once. How do you think this meeting might impact ongoing issues like H-1B visa, especially at a time when the federal court in the US has struck down Trump's $100,000 fee as illegal? Do you think there's going to be some progress in that direction? And also, of course, on the US tariffs on key sectors like IT, pharmaceuticals, steel?
I'm not holding my breath on all this, because Trump's attitude is, if the court strike down one methodology he has employed, he comes by the back door by using some other methodology. The point that the general made earlier is that America is broke and is not willing to do the work it takes to bring their economy back to good health. Instead, it is more of a rapacious attitude to smash and grab wherever they can. This is what the revival of the Monroe Doctrine is. In India, it's also, a question of looking at it narrowly from the American prism, but it is likely to do more damage to the American economy, particularly the technical side, if they make it more and more difficult for Indians to go there or stay there. Many of our Indians are seriously considering throwing in the towel and leaving America in any case. So these are not trends that show that Trump's bullying is working. In fact, it is working against the United States. His view is too narrow. His attitude of trying to get an unequal treaty in all matters is harming the cause of the United States and the whole world. It's not just India. We've all come to the question of pleading and begging and negotiating to get softer terms from America. I think that ship has sailed. We're not interested. You want to keep us out, we'll find another way. You want to make it difficult for us to stay there, we will leave. The world is changing. He hasn't changed in the right manner. He thinks by pushing countries around, he's going to get a better deal for the United States. This has summarily failed in country after country, including India. There are a few, like our neighbors, Pakistan, who may succumb because of their tremendous weaknesses to American bullying and flattery. India is not amongst them. It's not going to happen.
Right. General Sudhakar, I want to come to you now, and I had been waiting to come to you for the right question because you addressed so many crucial points in your previous statement. And I want to, in fact, flip it around what you said to you back. Do you think US can actually afford ignoring countries like India and China, the countries from where most of the demand comes for the products that US wants to export? Also weigh into account how Shashi Tharoor has called the US decision to rename Indo-Pacific Forum without Indo in the language, reversing that 8-year-old decision and saying if it is the final nail in the coffin for Quad at a time when already concerns were being raised about the relevance of the quadrilateral organization.
I hope I'm audible. My audio was off. Anyway,
You
are you able to listen to me?
Yes, please go ahead. Loud and
Thank you. No issue. I thought you had forgotten that I was present in the
I
panel.
can see you on my screen. Yes.
No point. You see, there are a couple of issues which I wish to highlight as an independent citizen of India. That India is a country with a population. I'm stating it's axiomatic, although stating the facts. It's a country with population of 1.45 billion and every human being, or more than that, it's around 1.46 billion. Every human being who's alive today on the soil of India, he has got some sentiments, he has got some emotions. The sentiments and emotions of India as a civilization has given us the rightful deserving entitlement of being the voice of the voiceless. So far, we have been airing the voice of the voiceless, and we have been pioneers, the frontline leaders. I don't see strategic silence ever will give us a place of pride in times ahead. Therefore, we need to take a relook and need to remain alive to the issue. Remain alive to the issue that whatever America is doing, it is doing for its national interests. It's coiling back. These are all symptoms of withdrawal symptoms. Because it is in a thick soup, so allow me to highlight very quick points, couple of points. First and foremost, this 39 or 40 days of conflict in the West Asia has highlighted or demonstrated couple of issues showing America in a very extremely poor light and in a weak status. Number one, it has demonstrated the limits of power of United States of America as a superpower. Number two, it no longer has the monopoly on technology, equipment, and information. Number three, China is emerging and it can provide alternate technology, advanced weapon systems, satellite-based navigation systems, artificial intelligence-enabled platform, banking channels, shipping lanes, and dual use items, and name, there are a host of, there are 55, 60 items, I can go on and on. And most importantly, I would say this 40 days of conflict in West Asia, it makes the end of Western hegemony. These have to be kept in the mind. And once you keep them in the back of your mind, we need to understand why America is doing what it is doing. It is doing simply to restore status quo ante of supremacy and authority, being a superpower, call it by any name, declining power or whatever you call it, and often we couch it under the heading of the Thucydide doctrine. Thucydide doctrine says that no superpower would ever like to lose its supremacy and authority, and it will never allow any rising power to come up to its footing. So therefore, what is China to USA? India is to China, and India also futuristically is to USA. It will never allow the state, the rapid rate at which India is growing. It is giving tremors to the American people who are in the planning and also in the implementation cells. So actually they are having sleepless nights, nightmarish experience. The speed at which India is growing, maybe will be outdoing, and the experts in IMF and World Bank have gone to the extent of bringing out one issue that no matter what you do, by 2038, India would have overtaken USA in the PPP, purchasing power parity terms. 2038, not once, more than thrice this has been given, disclosed by very important officials, including one of the Indians who is the executive director there.
Yeah.
So you got to keep in mind all this. If MAGA is important, if America first is important, then what is it indicative of? It is indicative of one very important thing, that the house in America is burning. It needs to introspect and withdraw, recoil back to its domestic homeland and take care of it and take care of the Americas. If it doesn't, then the speed at which the expanding footprint of Russia and China is actually enlarging, this may get hastened up, and it may be too late for America to take preventive measure. So all this drama that is going on, rhetoric is going on, is quite reflective in the document called as National Security Strategy 2025, which I suppose was published in November last week or December first week.
Yeah.
It is clearly indicative. If you pick up last 20 years of national security strategy of USA, you will find China as adversary number one. This is for the first time they have gone absolutely, I would say, diplomatic or silent on China, as if a green leaf is being shown to them. And also an indication to the effect has been made that you do whatever you wish like as far as Taiwan is concerned, but for God's sake, do not dare cross Atlantic and do not infringe or challenge my domain or my dominance on the Americas, which I appreciate what Gautam has said, that the Americas are very important. Monroe Doctrine has been put under the name of Donroe Doctrine, and whether they will be able to achieve that much or not, it's a very doubtful thing. But the biggest challenge of the HR component, human resource component today, is being posed by the Indians. That's why they're petrified. They're doing anything and everything, all the countermeasures that you have adopted, whether it is H-1B visa or charging $100,000, or it is anything else, or the green card, or any other visitors coming to USA, or technology point of view, to transfer of technology, talk about the GE, that aerospace engine, which is already delayed by 2 years, or name anything. USA is not going to support India. We have to be alive to the reality and be prepared. And how best can we rejuvenate the very concept of Make in India without America? Because America, it's about time that India asserts on one issue, that let's not be treated like laundromat or a hellhole or a, what do you call, destroyed economy or whatever he says. India needs to change its doctrine of the foreign policy, in my opinion. It is not a soldier, it is a citizen of India who's talking, and I put my hand on my heart and I speak out that the doctrine of Indian foreign policy must be driven by not only strategic autonomy, but it should also have a caveat of reciprocity. If America doesn't behave, you give it back to America nice and properly. In 2019, if they imposed tariff on us, we had gone back to them with counter tariff. What is stopping India in playing the same game? And last but not the least, Preeti, let me also give you, since I have got some insider information, the trade deal is not going to fructify, not going to come to any final status until the permission or USA is allowed to come into a dairy market, until USA is allowed to sell its corn, its soybean, and there is some fourth thing that I'm missing out. There are four important things they want to come into India. Will Narendra Modi ever or India compromise the requirement and the livelihood of Indian farmers? Nobody will do it. So what is important to MAGA is not important to MEGA. MEGA will go by what is driven by our national interest. Back to you, please.
Right. That term needs to be heard more in the discussions.